Before I did my background research here, I thought that Shadow Brain was Pony Canyon's last original Famicom game. The thing is, it still might be. But Shadow Brain was part of a whole multimedia experience, and the Famicom game was released simultaneously with a CD-ROM version for the Macintosh, which was also Japan's first CD-ROM game for the Mac. The Famicom version of Shadow Brain came with a VHS tape. It contained a 20-minute introduction to the game that explained the backstory and setting and gave you backgrounds on all of the major characters. It consists entirely of some concept art, some narration, and some truly awful music. The thing is, the music in Shadow Brain was a big selling point. It was composed by members of the rock band The Alfie and Screaming Mad George, a surrealist artist who's dabbled in just about everything but was mainly known for doing special effects. In the box was an advertisement that you could purchase a CD of the soundtrack, and the idea was that you would sync up the soundtrack to the game to get a more enhanced sound space. I tried it out with a version of the soundtrack I found online, and I really couldn't get it to sync up properly. You could use the CD soundtrack as a substitution, turning down the audio on your television, but then you lose sound effects, and there's no way to turn off the game's music. The plot of Shadow Brain is that you're the son of a world-famous computer engineer who has some crazy ideas about networking computers all around the world together. One day a mysterious woman appears on your computer screen, and she takes your father to the future, and you follow shortly behind. Now you're in the year 2090, stuck in a dystopian cyberpunk future, and you just want to find your father and get home. Your primary tool for this is the VDS, or Virtual Data Sensor. It's an augmented reality headset that you always wear, and it's what's giving you the interface and information you see on screen. A lot of your progress is gated behind finding upgrades for the VDS. For example, one of the early ones that you can find will allow you to log onto the network and yell at people on message boards. I really wish I had gotten that far in this game. Shadow Brain is a first-person maze crawler, but in this case, most of the mazes you're exploring are city streets in the far future. As you explore, you'll occasionally encounter something you want to interact with, so hit the A button to access the menu at the bottom of the screen. A lot of these icons are self-explanatory, but for the ones that aren't, card is how you interact with shops and doors. The toolbox is your inventory. You have 16 inventory slots, and you can only view one item at a time. The disk accesses special programs that you have installed on your VDS, such as a mapping program that will show you the entire area. And finally, the phone is used to connect to the network when you have that ability. You have 4 different armor slots and 3 different weapon slots that you have to equip things for. Anything that you purchase is automatically equipped, so make sure you're always buying something better than what you have on. As you explore the area, you'll encounter people on the streets, and most of them are going to be unfriendly. You don't get into combat just by running into them, though. You have to choose to fight. Of course, if they're blocking your path, you'll have no choice but to fight your way through them. Enemies are persistent. They don't despawn just because you wander around. And it's possible to get yourself locked into a rough position if you're weak, and all of your paths have been closed off. In combat, you have 3 choices for attacking: your fist, a melee weapon, or a gun. Different enemies are vulnerable to different weapons. You can also choose to defend, run away, or use a program, assuming you've unlocked one. And naturally, defeating enemies gives you some experience and cash. Shadow Brain starts you out at level 0, but is really just working as level 1. After you defeat an enemy, a new enemy spawns in on the map, and it may appear right where the previous one was. There's a few important locations that you should be aware of in Shadow Brain. The clinic is where you start the game, and you return here to get your health refilled. Hotels can also refill health, though they offer one additional service. They're where you go to save your game. There are 3 battery save slots in Shadow Brain, and you pick which one you want to use when you save. If you die, you get respawned in a healing tank, and they take half your cash in payment. Another special location are the sushi go-rounds. In these shops, it rotates through the sushi at the top of the screen, and you have to time when you want to purchase one. All of the sushi have different effects. When I played the game, I spent quite a while just trying to get armor and weapons. My path to those shops was really blocked off right from the start. After I got those, I spent a while grinding up in the first town, and then I purchased an upgrade to my VDS that let me access the next area. And that was really all I had time for. There's about 16 of these major areas to explore in Shadow Brain. From what I've read, Shadow Brain is a game with a pretty bad reputation in Japan. That said, everybody who I found who talked about playing it as a retro game were surprised because it was better than its reputation. It was a commercial failure though, and that has led to it being one of the most expensive RPGs on the Famicom. You can expect to spend about 8,000 yen on a cartridge-only copy, and if you have to ask how much a box copy with a videocassette costs, you can't afford it. Given how little time I have to play them, it's always tough for me to say anything about RPGs. It's a bit streamlined compared to a lot of dungeon crawlers that I've seen, but I don't think that's a bad thing here. And I think it has a pretty fun and distinctive style to it, though we are going to see a much better regarded science fiction dungeon crawler in a couple of weeks. As it stands though, I think Shadow Brain's kinda neat. Not that video though, that video's awful.